Alright, what's up Instagram? This is Travis at tasteoftravis.com. Today we're going to be making a wild ramp pesto, which I've already got here. We're going to put it over pasta, and we're going to add some bacon and some peas, which I did not think ahead, and I don't have the peas out, so maybe we'll just skip those today. But first things first, we're going to chop up the bacon. I've got my lovely wife sitting here off camera. She's watching for any comments, so if you guys have any questions, let me know, and I'll try to answer any questions that I can. We'll just do this real quick and try to get this out for you guys. So first things first, we're going to chop up our bacon here. What I'm doing right now is I'm cutting it into what we call lardons, and we'll take the lardons and we'll turn it into dices. So some of you guys might be asking, what are wild ramps? Well, wild ramps are an herb, a vegetable, really, not really an herb, that grows mostly on the forest floor in very wet climates. And they only grow for a very short time during the year, so they're kind of a delicacy. You'll see a lot of restaurants, especially out on the East Coast, using ramps during the springtime when they come up, because they pop up usually around early March, and they only stick around until towards the end of May, early June. So we're going to use the ramps that I was able to pick up at the farmer's market, and I made up a bunch of pesto. I've got the pesto here, and I've got some more that I put in ice cube trays that are in the freezer, so that I can preserve the pesto and use it later, just by running it through, or defrosting it after the fact. We'll put it in some freezer bags, and we'll be able to use it. It lasts about 3 or 4 months in the freezer that way. So I know Valerie loves pesto. I love pesto. Had never had it until I started cooking, and fell in love with it. So absolutely love pesto. Ramps are part of the onion family. They have bulbs just like onions. That's actually what we have here, is we have some ramp bulbs that I've already pre-sliced. We're going to use those in the pesto as well. And they taste kind of like a mix between garlic and onion. And let me tell you, I've never had ramp pesto before I made it today, and it is wonderful. It's absolutely delicious. Ramps are awesome. If you get the opportunity to try ramps at a fancy restaurant somewhere, I recommend it. I know they put them in soup a lot, and they cut, they will put whole ramp leaves in pasta as well. So we're getting all of our bacon chopped up here. I'm going to add a couple more slices here. Probably got out a little bit too much bacon. That, it's almost un-American to say you can never really have too much bacon, but we don't want to overshadow the pesto. This is really a pesto dish. We're adding the bacon just to give us a little bit more flavor, texture, protein. So I'm not a vegetarian, I'm not a vegan, I love meat. So we're going to brown up this bacon, get it nice and crispy, and then we're going to use the bacon fat to help make the sauce for the pesto. So while I'm finished chopping this up, I just want to tell you guys again about my website, tasteoftravis.com. Still building it, still new. It's my food blog, but I'm also available on Facebook and Twitter. You can find me Taste of Travis on both of those. And then obviously here on Instagram. And this video will be going, once we're done shooting here today, this video will be going on YouTube. Just finished shooting a video on how to make this ramp pesto that I'll be editing later today or tomorrow, and we'll get that put out on YouTube as well. So trying to build the brand here. I appreciate everybody who's following along now and who will be following along in the future. I love to cook. We explore a little bit of why I like to cook on tasteoftravis.com, but I could tell you, for some of you guys who know me, some who don't, the reason that I love to cook is about almost 5 years ago, as the time of this video shooting, I came down with stage 4 cancer, cancer called Burkitt's lymphoma. Burkitt's lymphoma is the fastest growing cancer on earth. It doubles in size about every 25 hours. So I was in a pretty precarious situation there, and spent 5 months in the hospital going through chemotherapy. While I was in chemotherapy, watched Food Network every single day. Really developed a zeal for cooking. I'd always liked cooking before, but man, it just really turned on for me after that. So when I got out of the hospital, I just started cooking everything that I could find. And everything that I do is self-taught. So again, I really appreciate you guys following along with me, and hopefully we'll build a brand and we can start teaching people how to cook some really good food. So got all of our bacon chopped up here that we're going to use. I'll put this back in the fridge for later. Got my Parmigiano Reggiano here. This is the real Parmesan. It even says so on the rind here. That's what you want to look for. Don't use the stuff in the can. It's awful. It's not real cheese. It's imitation. This is the only thing that I ever use for Parmesan cheese anymore. We'll put that on top of the pesto. It's already mixed into the pesto. It's actually regulated by a regulation body in Italy, and only those things can actually be called Parmesan cheese. So you can find it in just about any grocery store anymore. They always have like a fancy cheese section. I'm telling you guys right now, you can't beat it. So we'll be using that too. We've got our grater here. I got my board scraper for the bacon, my fancy plate to plate this up when we're done. Excuse me. It's hot in here. So pasta today, we are going to be using rigatoni pasta. I've got the water boiling over there on the stovetop, and I'm going to take you guys over there with me right now, and we're going to start cooking up this bacon. So hold on one second. Okay, we should be able to see everything here. You can see my plants growing over there too. Gonna get our bacon, put it on a little plate here. Let's grab the plate. Sorry, we're not on video here. Here we go. Okay, so we're going to turn the pan for the bacon, just a regular pan. We're going to turn it on medium-low because we want to cook this bacon low and slow. The reason we're cooking the bacon low and slow is we want to render all of the fat out of the bacon. The fat is what's going to make our sauce. So cutting up a couple pieces that I missed here, no big deal. We're not perfect at this yet, guys. We're still learning some too. So I'm trying to teach while I'm learning. That's supposed to be the sign of a good teacher, right? So we've got the bacon here. It's, like I said, it's on medium-low. We're going to start rendering that down. Get our wooden spoon here. A couple minutes. Once this starts cooking a little bit, we'll throw the pasta in. That way everything's done roughly at the same time. Can't see me. Okay. Let me see if I can adjust this a little bit. Can you see me now? Kinda? Okay. We're not going to be able to get everything in the shot, guys. We're doing what we can here. It's Instagram Live. I'm setting everything up on a tripod to keep things steady and moving. So, while we're letting that bacon cook, hold on one second. Let me grab these. Again, these are the ramp bulbs that we talked about a little bit ago. Ramps really look, they look like an onion at the base, what you think of like a scallion. But at the top, they've got big flowing leaves instead of little sharp leaves like scallions do. So that's how you can tell the difference. You find these on the forest floor in really wet locations. Farmers are starting to farm for them now, but it's still not a big practice. Most of what we get ramps from is still wild foraging. So they're a little bit more expensive than regular onions, but the taste is just absolutely amazing. So while we're waiting on this bacon to cook, I'd ask if we have any questions, but it doesn't look like we do.
Someone just asked if they taste like onions.
Okay, so a ramp kind of tastes like onions. It tastes like a mix between onions and garlic. It's a little bit stronger taste than, say, like a shallot. Not quite as strong as a red onion. So it's right in the middle. A little bit stronger than a scallion even. But absolutely delicious. And like I said at the beginning of the live video, they're really considered a delicacy. All the major restaurants, you can't find them past about Minnesota. It seems like they grow mostly in the mountains over on the East Coast. So they forage for them a lot in the Smoky Mountains, things like that. All the East Coast restaurants use them. So they're starting to get over-foraged a little bit, which is a problem. Which is why you do have some farmers that are trying to come up with ways to farm them. You can transplant them. I know a lot of people who live in those areas like to transplant the bulbs and put them in like a compost area in their own private gardens and just regrow them every year. But it's still very much wild foraging just to get these. So, starting to see some smoke come off the bacon. This will take about 10 minutes or so to cook out. Shake our pan here a little bit. As soon as we know the bacon's starting to crisp up, we'll go ahead and throw the rigatoni into the pot. What we're going to use to actually make this together, we've got our pesto over here, which, like I said, I just made a recorded video that we'll put out on YouTube here soon to show you how to make the ramp pesto. The rest of the sauce is actually going to come from the bacon fat and also some pasta water that we get. Pasta water is full of starch. It'll be nice and salty after we finish salting it. And everything will come together. It emulsifies a little bit, and we'll throw some cheese on it to really bring it home. It's going to be absolutely delicious when it's done. I can't wait to show you guys what this is going to look like. So, starting to get that bacon smell here in the house. Absolutely wonderful smell. It's the best part of cooking is getting to smell all the amazing things coming off of the stovetop. So, really what I like to do is I like to cook, but I love to eat. So when all this is done, that's what I really enjoy is being able to enjoy the food that I cook and also sharing it with other people. That's a big one for me. You know, they talk a lot about love languages, things like that. I feel like I share my love language through sharing my food. So I know my lovely wife has really enjoyed all of my cooking. She raves to everybody. I about said rants and raves, and that's not right. She doesn't rant. She's actually very anti-ranch. She's a wonderful person. Let's not do that. No, she raves to everybody about how great my cooking is. And before she and I met, she actually knew several chefs. So it makes me feel pretty good. I'm always happy when I can please her on something. Always really happy when I surprise her with things in the kitchen that she wasn't sure if I would be good at cooking or not, and I am. She's not a big fan of tuna. I made a tuna noodle dish the other day. She absolutely loved it. Went back for more. Valerie's from California, so she loves guacamole and everything that goes with Tex-Mex and things like that. Made her guacamole the other night, and she couldn't put it down. It was absolutely wonderful. So I'm always excited to cook for her.
Couple questions.
Sure.
What's your stance to baking the bacon opposed to stovetop?
So if I'm making bacon for a large group of people, and by large group I mean more than just Valerie and I, like when our kids are here, I always put it in the oven, and I set it on a wire rack on top of a baking tray. Two reasons. One, that keeps the bacon flat, and it keeps it out of all of the fat that comes off of the bacon. Helps from splattering, and it helps from burning. Sorry, that's my auto fan turning on, saying that it's getting a little too hot in here. The other reason I like cooking it that way is that I can actually collect all that bacon fat, and then I store it and I use it for cooking.
The next question is, what's the best technique you picked up since you started this food journey?
I'd say the best technique that I've come up with is really just all the sauces that I make. Before I started with all of my cooking and everything like that, I was very much let's get a jar of spaghetti sauce, and I even thought a long time ago that I was cooking by getting a jar of spaghetti sauce and adding stuff to it. I was like, oh man, I made it my own. That's mine. It's not anybody else's. No, that's not really cooking. That's adding to a jarred product. So it's a little bit different. But now I make all of my Alfredo sauces from scratch. I make all my tomato sauces from scratch. I think that, coupled with learning some of the finer points of how food is supposed to come together, has been a really, really big deal for me. Look at that, I'm getting ready to start a fire here. There's really a science to cooking, and I'm loving learning about the science of cooking. So, back to our bacon. We're still shaking it up here. We're still trying to render the fat out of it. Now, we're not adding any salt to the bacon because bacon's already very salty. It's a cured meat. The way they cure it is they actually add a bunch of salt to it. That preserves it. That's why bacon can last for weeks and weeks and weeks in a vacuum sealed container on a shelf, versus something like ham or pork chops that go bad after a few days. So,
Is cooking more art or science?
yes. Cooking is both art and science. So, I would say cooking is an artistic expression of science. So there's a lot of chemistry that goes into cooking everything. Baking is the ultimate edible chemistry. And so I would say baking is definitely science, and cooking, that's where you get to express more artistic flair. There's a lot of creativity that goes into cooking because you don't always have to measure everything out and be precise. Baking, everything has to be precise.
That's a really interesting way to put it.
Oh, thank you.
Like I said earlier, we kick ass on MasterChef.
That would be awesome. I would love to do MasterChef. I actually auditioned for MasterChef last year. So right before Thanksgiving, they had tryouts in Chicago. Valerie and I drove up to Chicago to audition. Went through the process. It didn't end up getting on the show, but had a really good experience. Learned some things. So we're going to try again here in a year or so, maybe this fall. See if we can't get on the show again. But I did get to meet a few people that I think are going to probably end up making it on the show. So I know MasterChef is coming out on the 30th of this month, which is May. For those who are watching live, this is going to be on YouTube. And I'm really excited to maybe see some people that I got to meet in Chicago. Bacon's still rendering out. We might end up having to add some water to our boiling water here for our pasta. So let me actually go ahead and do that. Guys, we're still learning this live thing. This is actually the first live cooking demonstration that I've done in a couple years. The last couple that I did were on Facebook a couple years ago. They didn't come out very well. There was a lot of lag and stuff like that. So, you know, bear with me. We're still learning, but I'm trying to keep up here and keep you guys entertained. If you have any more questions, let me know.
Glad to hear you'll try again. What's the most challenging thing you've cooked so far?
The most challenging thing I've cooked so far? I did a prime rib roast for Christmas one year. You run a risk of overcooking that, and prime rib roast, if you overcook it, it's just not any good. So I'd say maybe the prime rib roast. Maybe the first time I made pesto, it came out excellent. But I was very nervous because I had never tasted pesto before I made it. So I wasn't. Well, I take it back. I had tasted pesto one time out of a jar before I made it. So I wasn't entirely sure what it was supposed to taste like. But I was assured by Valerie and other people who tasted it, who had tasted pesto before, that it was very good. So I was happy with that.
What's your light whale? The thing you want to try but are a little intimidated by?
Ice cream. And not just ice cream. I actually tried once and was not successful, and I want to try it again. So I heard about a dessert called a tarte tatin, which is basically a French pastry. It's a tart, like a fruit tart, but it's cooked upside down and then transferred over to a plate and served that way. I actually attempted it once. It did not come out very well. Tasted great, but I just didn't let it cook long enough. I made pie dough from scratch, tart dough for the bottom of it, that really wasn't quite put together. So there are a lot of baking things that I'm not great at yet, that I'm still learning. So I would say something along those lines. All right, we're starting to render off some of the fat. I'm actually going to go ahead and turn this up so that we're not sitting here for 2 hours waiting for this to finish cooking. Every stovetop is different. You got to know what your stovetop is going to cook at, and you just learn that from practice over time. This stovetop is, it was my pride and joy when I had the house built a couple of years ago, but I'm finding it lacking in some regards. So Of course, the big dream right now, if all this YouTube stuff takes off, Facebook stuff takes off, it'd be great, is to get a nicer, newer cooktop in here. Okay, again, guys, still just rendering out bacon here real quick. If there are any more questions, comments, maybe not about my looks, let's stay off of that. I don't know how much of me you can see, but we turn the heat up on the bacon. You can see some of it starting to come together a little bit. Now, I'm doing this with just a regular smoked bacon. If we wanted to stick to it being completely Italian, you could use things like pancetta. You could use things like guanciale. I love guanciale. Kind of hard to find here in Indiana. There's only a couple of places that makes it on a regular basis. So when I can get it, I try to use it, but we're just using regular bacon tonight because that's what sounded good to me. So, and cooking's all about what you enjoy doing. So, the difference between regular bacon and pancetta and guanciale, regular bacon is cured and then it's smoked in. You see it a lot in applewood, maple smoked, but it's smoked with a wood to give it a little bit of that flavor. Pancetta is cured bacon. It comes from the belly of the pig just like regular bacon does, but it's never smoked. So it's cured. It's usually cured with with salt, obviously, and then like juniper seeds and stuff like that to give it a little bit different flavor. Guanciale is different in that it doesn't come from the belly of the pig. It actually comes from the jowl of the pig right up over here. So it's got a little bit different bite to it. It's got a little bit different flavor, but it is also cured meat as well.
Who's your favorite celebrity chef?
Oh, that's a tough question because it bounces around a lot. I originally said my favorite celebrity chef was Alex Guarnaschelli. I really like her. Love Gordon Ramsay, obviously, if I'm trying out for MasterChef. I love Bobby Flay. Like watching him cook. You can't beat a lot of people on the Food Network. Michael Simon is great. Tyler Florence is great. Anne Burrell is definitely in my top 5. She started out in a lot of Italian restaurants, and Italian food is like that's my comfort area. I love Italian food. I love pasta. If you go and subscribe to tasteoftravis.com, you'll actually see that 80% of the recipes that I have on there are pasta recipes. So that's kind of in my wheelhouse. That's what I really like. I make fresh pasta. We're not using fresh pasta today just because I don't have the equipment to make rigatoni, and I wanted to use rigatoni today. So,
What's your favorite ingredient for
well, I already said pasta, so we'll say pasta. The most versatile ingredient that we cook with, and we cook in just about everything that we cook, is eggs. I love making eggs. I love adding eggs to dishes. And then I would say pancetta. I've been cooking with pancetta ever since I got out of the hospital, and I love the taste. Getting closer on the bacon, guys. I promise you, this isn't just going to be all me standing around jacking my jaw with you guys. So, I know there are plenty of other chefs out here doing the same thing during quarantine. For those watching this later on YouTube, we're still under the COVID-19 of 2020 quarantine. Just briefly. So I know a lot of other chefs are out here doing this kind of thing. This is my first attempt and foray into doing some of this stuff. So maybe next time we'll pick something that doesn't take quite so long to put together. But I'm glad you guys are watching along with me. I appreciate it. So eventually we'll get a good camera in here that we can get in closer and show you what's going on. But if you could get in here closer, you can see that we have the bacon fat is rendering. We're getting a little pool of bacon fat in there. That's going to be delicious. Valerie says it smells amazing. I think it does too. Got a little bit of fond building up on the bottom of the pan. For those of you who don't know what fond is, anytime you're cooking a meat in a pan, it leaves behind little brown bits in the pan. The French call that fond. We use fond when we make pan sauces and things like that. We're actually going to deglaze the pan a little bit with some of the bulbs of the ramps, because they'll release some of the fluid, and then we'll add some butter into it too and help deglaze the pan out and get some of that off the bottom, and it adds to the flavor. It's amazing.
Have there been any ingredients that have been hard to find lately that you just couldn't?
Well, we were pretty good on the quarantine about stocking up on meats and stuff like that. I know meats are kind of being harder to find. We talked about guanciale earlier. Guanciale is very hard to find here in Indiana, in the Midwest. For a while, I thought shiitake mushrooms were very difficult to find. I used shiitake mushrooms for another blog post that I did on Taste of Travis. You guys should go check that one out. That was actually a recreation from a celebrity chef on Tournament of Champions that was on Food Network. They came out really, really good. But I've since found out that just because places like Whole Foods and Fresh Time don't advertise everything on their website saying that they have or do not have something, doesn't mean that they don't actually have it. So I was able to go and find shiitake mushrooms at Fresh Time if I ever need them again. Also, I've gotten hooked into a couple of farmers markets, like I said, with the ramps. They're very hard to find because they only come up for a short time during the year. So you usually have to find those in farmers markets, things like that. They don't just sell them in grocery stores. Now the question, are there any other questions? I'm going to go with no. So, bacon's almost done. We're going to go ahead and drop the pasta. Before we drop the pasta, I'm using stainless steel pots, so I don't add my salt before the water is boiling, and that's because it will actually patina the bottom of the pot. So we salt our pasta water because that's the only time that we can ever flavor our pasta. Hi, Sheila. So, gonna add our rigatoni in here. Thanks for coming. I love the Checo pasta if you get an opportunity. Hold up. Got our other wooden spoon. Give the pasta a good stir. We're gonna cook this pasta until it's right at al dente. And then I've got my spider here that we're gonna transfer everything over. The reason we cook it till right at al dente, it'll be a little undercooked because we want to finish the pasta in the sauce to give it that last little bit of flavor. And I'm actually going to ditch this wooden spoon that I've been using for the bacon in favor of my other wooden spoon that's slotted, because we want to leave behind all that beautiful bacon fat and just take the bacon out of here. Bacon's nice and crispy. Bacon's going to go here in a paper towel lined plate so that it can drain some of the excess fat off of it. We don't need all of this bacon fat in here, so I'm going to drain a little bit of it off camera and get the rest of this. Hold on.
Sheila asked, is this the standard dish that you made for us?
No, that was the dish that I made for Sheila, and the one that I actually auditioned for MasterChef with was called a matriciana, which is similar in that it's also got bacon in it, but it's usually used with guanciale, like we talked about earlier, and it's actually tomato-based sauce instead of pesto. So this is a little bit different. Usually with pesto, you can add chicken, you can add sausage, you can add pork if you really want to. I'm adding bacon. So I want the last of this meat out of here. Burn our hands a little bit. That's okay. Alright, so let me get this bacon out of the way. We're going to drain a little bit of this fat. Still got a little bit of fat in the bottom, a little bit of that fond. Now we're going to add in, let this get back up to temp for a second. Oh, piece of bacon. Now we're going to add in some of our ramp bulbs, just to reinforce that ramp flavor from the pesto. Back to using our non-slotted spoon. Choking on bacon over here, guys. A little bit of salt. Salt for this is going to do two things. It's going to season the ramps, and it's also going to help draw out some of the moisture. I'm still choking on bacon. Live video. We don't want these to cook too long. We'll turn down the heat a little bit. And now we're going to add in just a little bit of my homemade chicken stock to deglaze the bottom of this pan. So I made up a big batch of chicken stock a couple weeks ago. Well, that lid's not any good now.
Sheila said, Yummy, not getting hungry. And Darius said, gonna need the Heimlich up in here.
Yeah, we might. And Various, I gotta stick around. We've got somebody watching from my group that I play video games with, and if I don't stick around, who's gonna help our team win, right? So we'll turn the heat up on this a little bit so we can deglaze the pan. Part of that deglazing process, we want to reduce the chicken stock because we don't want a real soupy pasta mixture. Come over here and check our pasta. Needs a good stir. Pasta water, we want it to taste like the ocean. That's what they say. Oh, my microphone thing fell off. Hold on a second, guys. Give me 1 second, guys. All right, I'm back. So where are we at? We are finishing the deglazing process with this bacon. You can see it getting all nice and juicy in here. Got the ramps sauteing in the bacon fat. Get this reduced a little bit. Pasta should be ready shortly.
Morgan writes, if you are live cooking from home, Guy Fieri. Live cooks from home, you equal Guy Fieri.
Well, is it trademarked to say welcome to Flavortown? I don't know. I don't know that I'm quite the same as Guy Fieri, but I appreciate it. I guess I'll have to ask Valerie if I can bleach part of my beard. She's saying no. So I don't know about all that. We're gonna keep the hat on because I have not brushed my hair since quarantine started, maybe. So I live in hats for the most part, but beard's coming in nicely. Val is a smart woman. Thank you for noticing. Okay, chicken stock's almost done reducing. Pasta's getting close to being done. We're almost out of here, guys. I'll grab me one of these little tiny spoons here. We're gonna taste the reduction. Make sure it doesn't need any salt. Oh no, that's fantastic. Again, I want to thank everybody for following along, watching the live video. Anybody who comes back and watches it on YouTube later, also thank you very much. You guys are awesome. We're gonna open this door here for a second. Sorry if I'm blocking your view. It's live, guys. All right. Chicken stock's nice and reduced. It's pan is deglazed. Let's taste one of our noodles here. No, I can already feel it. It's not done, but hold on. Yep, we're not there yet. A couple more minutes. But the flavor's there. So, in the meantime, another quick story about cooking. Yes. No, tried doing this live thing a couple of years ago. Made Dutch baby pancakes. That came out delicious, but the video was very poor quality. So, hopefully we've learned a few things since then. And we've got better quality video, better quality audio because I've got the mic. Alright, we're going to turn this down because the sauce is all the way reduced and we don't want to burn anything. Don't need any more salt. Now, if I wasn't using the ramps, I would use probably a little bit of minced garlic or crushed garlic in this just to give it that garlic flavor, but the ramps bring some of that garlic flavor into it, and I really want the ramps to be the forward in this dish. So hands are clean. If you could see into this pot, you'd see all the little starchy water boiling up. If you've ever made spaghetti at home, you know the water turns very cloudy as it cooks. Let's turn the heat off on this. It'll do some carryover cooking here. And we might end up having to flip this over to a bowl. Skillet lasagna. First, I hope you have cast iron. That's the best to make a good skillet lasagna. Tips, I would say, don't make your tomato sauce too loose. It needs to be a little bit more paste-like, because as the noodles cook out, they're going to absorb some liquid, but you don't want a runny lasagna. I always add ricotta to my lasagna, and I actually have a recipe for lasagna on tasteoftravis.com. I like the ricotta versus something like cottage cheese. I know that's the American way to do it, versus a bechamel, which a lot of people swear by a bechamel sauce, but I like the ricotta because it helps absorb some of the liquid and it's not too runny. Those would be the big ones, and always, as I've said before, use the Parmigiano Reggiano instead of the stuff out of the can. Okay, I think our pasta's done. So, we've got our bacon fat in here, deglazed a little bit. We're going to take about 2/3 of a cup of pasta water out of here to use to emulsify the sauce with. I'm going to grab all of my rigatoni, move it right over here to the other pan. That way, if I end up needing more pasta water later, I have it. Okay. Turn this off. Okay. Toss this in the mixture we already have, and then we're going to add. Yep, see, we're going to end up needing a bowl here. So, let's get in the camera's way and get a bowl. That's why we always have these things standing by. Look at that. We got it. So let's scrape the rest of our ramp mixture out of here. Rigatoni was just a little bit bigger than I was anticipating. So again, that's why it's live, right? Never know what's going to happen. So we'll get that out of the way. Now we got our pesto. Gonna mix our pesto right in here. And drop it right into the pasta. Okay, so we got our pesto right in here. We're mixing it into the pasta along with the bacon fat. And I'm making a mess. Dropping stuff right on here on the floor. I'm going to toss our bacon back in. So here's our bacon. And our pasta water. Now we got our pasta water in here, mixing it around. What that pasta water does with that, with all that starch, is it helps emulsify everything. The starch bonds to the rest of the ingredients in here, makes it a thicker, creamier sauce. So along with that, we're going to get our cheese, put some cheese back in here. Now there's some cheese in the pesto, but just like bacon, you can never have enough cheese. And pasta cries out for cheese. So you can see it's starting to get thicker. Maybe you can't see it, I don't know. All right. Let's move our camera back over to where our starting position was. Hold on. We're walking backwards so you don't have to see the rest of my house. Move things a little bit closer here, guys. There we go. Okay, can we all see now? We got our pesto in here. It's thickening up. Got lots of cheese in here. Now, time to plate and test it out here. Got our nice little fancy plate. Scoop some out here into a bowl. And get this out of the way here so you can see the bowl. Shake it down a little bit. I'm going to top it with a little bit more cheese. Any last minute questions? Because we're just about done here, guys. A little cheese on top. Let me get a fork. And if you stuck it out to the end, I appreciate it. This is rigatoni pasta with a wild ramp pesto and bacon. Appreciate it, guys. That's fantastic. Thanks everybody for joining in live. This has been Travis from tasteoftravis.com. If you're watching this on YouTube later, make sure you like and subscribe. And I appreciate everybody coming out. Have a good night, everyone.